To those of you who registered, we will reach out to you and ensure that this recording is shared with you so that you can inform your community of information that they will need to know to support their families and their children at this time. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us in this important conversation. My name is Erica Kendall, and I'm the president of the Community Education Council for District 17, encompassing Central Brooklyn. I want to also announce and acknowledge my partners in this work, who are the Parents to Improve Student Transportation. This community-based organization does profound work in educating communities to support their children and making sure that their transportation needs are met. And this information is more important now than ever. Before we begin and I pass this over to them, I want to share with you, I will be facilitating this conversation, and there are a few community agreements that I want to make sure we are all clear about. The first of which is you all should see our lovely American Sign Language interpreter. This is to make sure that our community members who are deaf or hard of hearing are supported in making sure that they first and foremost have this information. And that's why when you receive the recording, you also will see our lovely interpreters. The second thing to share is we will be providing lots of information, but we want to prioritize parents first. We see a few members of the press here. We will make sure that you have an opportunity to ask questions after we prioritize parents, making sure that their needs are met first. To our policymakers who may be in the room, we want to have a separate conversation with you because the conversation that you need to have is probably very different from the one that parents need. So I wanted to make sure that you all understand that as we want to make sure parents are prioritized in this work, we want to encourage you to use the chat. We will be monitoring the chat. We do not have a Spanish language interpreter, but we will have people who are bilingual monitoring the chat who can answer questions and will translate as needed to make sure that your questions are also shared with the community. We are doing the best that we can to make sure that everyone gets the information that they need. And if there's a way that we can expand this work, please let us know and we will partner and collaborate as needed to make sure that everybody is supported through this. That being said, make sure you use the chat. Make sure that you ask whatever questions you have. Make sure we have your contact information so that we can follow up and provide information and updates as they are made available to us. And, you know, that being said, I think that covers everything. And I think I can hand it over to Sarah at this time. So that being said, Sarah, the floor is yours.
Oops. Okay. Hello. Oh, this video, that's fine. All right, I will begin unless Rima is available to speak instead. In that case, good morning. My name is Sarah Catalanato. My pronoun is she. And for our vision impaired community, I am a white woman with blondish brown hair. I'm wearing glasses and a long sleeve t-shirt. I'm a co-founder of Parents to Improve School Transportation, which is PIST for short, or just plain PIST. If you have had students on the bus, you know why that word resonates. I am first going to speak about some little things that are giving parents big stress right now, and then on our opinion about this labor conflict. Later in the program, I'll be back to share a brief update that's on its way to us from the union about the status of your school bus routes next week. Now, you know, we have a Facebook group and there's been a lot of commotion due to missing and mixed communications from the school system. Here are the top 3 concerns we keep seeing the last few days. Number 1, the specific list of which companies are the likeliest ones to be shut down if there was a bus worker strike was not really shared except by us on our website for the last week. So hundreds of parents are saying exactly how affected would my child be. Then eventually they got messages one by one. And today, well, I'll stop there. They got these one by one messages. So we have to wonder, why did Tweed and City Hall sit on that information? The number two is the messages stating that your route is at risk of a strike. These seem to have gone to each and every route covered by the ATU members, whether or not the workers at that company had even done a strike authorization vote or had the votes counted at the time the messages were sent. So for example, one of those companies just voted yesterday. Similarly, the list that has finally been published and shared to at least the non-public schools, it's a list of every union represented company, including those who already signed labor contracts in a different school year, and it's not, on the table. It is still possible, to have a solidarity union-wide strike, but it's confusing and additional extra worry about what's right in front of us to get this humongous list of companies and routes. Okay. Number three, the word rideshare shows up and then disappears on people's NYCSA accounts. This rideshare was a new version of the gig taxi rides. It was created for summer rising with the letters SR in front of numeric codes. Certain people had RO as the letter instead for route outage, meaning there was no driver or no bus power to travel with their child for an extended time. Presumably, these codes had reached their expiration date, my fault, and were wiped away, and there will be new codes. It's just a tech thing. The DOE has promised to get a code to every student on an ATU route. Please note that this does nothing for students on other routes who also may have a no-show bus on any given day, as we know. Rideshare, in our opinion, takes paid work hours away from bus paras and bus nurses while putting unpaid work hours onto the parent or the caregiver. We do have a link with more opinions and facts about rideshare that will be coming up in the chat. It's really a good thing that we have each other to explain these things to each other, because the school's website is a runaround and the public relations staff just do what they do to cover their bosses, you know what. For those who have not seen the PIST space NYC Facebook group, please do check it out for a real-time exchange between experienced and new parents. And often experienced para, driver, or matron will drop in to clarify something. In terms of the strike threat, of course, a strike of any length would cause suffering for our children and families. But there must be something serious going on for people to consider going without a paycheck to make a point. Lately, parent leaders have heard public schools executives who make six-figure salaries imply to us behind closed doors that the school bus union is the bad guy in this scenario. No matter what the authorities say to bounce the responsibility off of themselves and onto the union, we are not fooled. I'm just going to pause because I did see that Rima came in. I'm willing to cede the floor to her and resume after if that helps with her busy mom schedule.
So Sarah, you can actually finish because I'm transitioning to where I was going, and then it's gonna be a little quieter. So you finish and then I'll go right after.
Okay, sorry, everybody. Okay, so we know that ATU 1181 is not our enemy, because if they win this living wage, the job will be more attractive. Then more people will start and stay doing school bus work, and our kids will have more of a shot of having routes with a steady driver plus a ready substitute, routes that take under 90 minutes without having to make that an IEP accommodation, and routes that can still be staffed if a worker calls out sick or attends a graduation, like any parent should get to do. We look around and we know that most bus parents are workers too, and most bus workers are parents too. We collectively, not the people who sit in offices necessarily, have put the most thought into how busing can be made better for everyone. Now, as a parent organization who has been engaging with Local 1181 since our very first rally in 2010, we in PIST notice the compassion of people who stay in this work and do it with pride. On the flip side, many of the worst complaints that we get involve the non-union companies. At this point in time, the union members who have been on the job for decades, who didn't give up on hard work because they could reach top pay if they just hung in for 5 or 6 years, who receive a full paycheck even in weeks when the students have 1 or 2 days off, they're trying to make sure that the other bus workers who have been hired since 2013 and the future ones can finally also get those same perks instead of being shortchanged. And of course, we would just rather them win this goal without a prolonged strike. That's why we're doing everything we can think of, from petitions and calls to rallies and parades. And you'll hear about all of that today. Those actions are shared on our site. And in the chat today, I'll spell out the site, PISTNYC.org. Please join us however you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Maggie, you're up.
I think it was Rima.
I think Rima said that she was in transit, so.
Yep, I'm back.
Okay.
No, I just got here, so I'm good now. All right, so good morning or good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rima Izquierdo. I am a longtime bus advocate and parent of 3 students that take the bus. I have been doing this busing thing for the last 15 years. So yeah, we want to talk about how we can help ourselves, right? Because a lot of the innovative solutions are coming from parent leaders and advocates, and from different conversations that we have with each other, and what we learn about, as we go, we learn things and we get stuff from the unions and from the matrons, because we're all parents at the end. And so some of what we want to say is that we want to let everyone know that we do support the workers. That's the first thing, is that the workers need fair pay. There needs to be, pay parity, and we need to add back EPP into their contracts. We support this being a career. We support everybody being able to stay in this and support their families, and this being a viable job to work for the rest of until people want to not work here. But we need to make it an option. So we need to be firm with OPT, and we need to let everybody know that the mayor controls all of our agencies, and we need to hold everybody that controls our schools accountable, everyone involved in the union talks, because while it is between unions and vendors, it's a greater conversation that is overseen by New York City public schools and by our mayor and our chancellor. So we definitely want to let everybody know that from the parent standpoint, we don't blame the workers for wanting a fair wage, for wanting a fair contract. So we want to assure parents that there are other ways of being supportive that doesn't villainize other people that are also parents, which leads to the next point. As Sarah mentioned, there are many contents within the PISTNYC.org resource folder that everyone can visit to learn how to do your New York City Schools account, to learn how to access rideshare, and also to visit the Facebook to get into real-time conversations with people that are dealing with this every day on the ground. And also want to let everybody know that we're gonna have a rally on Tuesday, and everybody is invited. It'll be on the steps of Tweed at 11:30 a.m. And we will be inviting all our legislators, our media people, and we wanna make sure that as many people come out as possible so that they can see who's affected, how we're affected, and how they can help us, what they can do to support the workers and the families and make this fair for everybody so that we can resolve the deeper issues that have been happening for a very long time. Busing problems is not new, but we need new solutions to fix this age-old problem. So I just wanna invite everybody to come Tuesday. Please sign the petition. We'll drop it in the chat. Thank you for being here. Ask your questions, share the information, let families know, and let's be there for each other, because you know we're the best allies that we have for each other, and we're the best support for our students. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie Sanchez. I'm here. I'm a co-founder of Protect NYC Special Education, Proteger la Educación Especial de la Ciudad de Nueva York. So what we've been hearing a lot about in reporting and in communication from the Department of Education has been mostly the type of communication that we've heard has been towards the direction of pinning workers versus families. It is critical that we as families unite along the transportation workforce, and it's important that we stand with them as a community, not only in the phase of the possibility of a strike, but in, you know, even in the absence of a strike. We as family members know that there are workers in the school bus transportation workforce that also has either students in schools. They also have students with disabilities, are themselves educators, are themselves teacher assistants, nurses. So we need to stand united with them in their asks. What is it that they're asking? They are asking for a livable wage. Everyone has the right to be able to provide for their families. Everyone has the right to be able to have benefits. The EPP is not being provided for them. That is the benefits for them that were in place some time ago, and that was removed under the Bloomberg administration. We as parents really need to also consider that, because these are the folks that are with our kids every single day. And so we really need to support them in this fight. There are some prevailing busing issues in the absence of a strike as well. The incorrect busing information, not adhering to accommodations, like limited time travel, no para or nurse available, long bus routes, kids on the bus for 2+ hours both ways. We cannot we dismiss these prevailing issues. We need to continue to fight alongside the workforce against these, and we need to put pressure with the Department of Education, with the mayor, with the chancellor, and these private bus companies. We will be sharing all the information today. We will also be sharing links to the PIST resources website. So please be on the lookout for those links in the chat. There's more to come. Please attend the September 5th rally. We will also be inputting that information in the chat. Thank you so much for being here today. I'll just pass it on to the next speaker.
Yes, so on my list, I have that Lupe is next.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. Hello, my name is Lupe Hernandez. I use she, her, ella pronouns, and I am a Latina with brown eyes and brown hair wearing glasses. I am a parent of a rising 5th grader that has disabilities and that has required school bus transportation. And that is actually what has led me to my work in education advocacy. But today I'm here to speak to you on behalf of the New York City Office of the Public Advocate Jumaane D. Williams as one of the Education and Opportunity Community Organizers. I would like to recognize 2 of my colleagues here on the call. We have our Bronx advocate, Gina Williams, as well as another community organizer in the education opportunity space, Dana Lennon Thomas. So thank you so much for having us. Our office has been supporting the efforts and sharing the excellent resources that PIST NYC has provided to families over the years. Jumaane understands that busing has historically been an inadequate system, and the stress and the repercussions that it has had on our families, as well as the students who have missed very crucial instructional time and their legally mandated services. These contract negotiations are a reflection of the value that we put on the civil liberties of our students' right to an education. It is important to know that those making the decisions may not be aware of the impact, and we need parents, leaders like yourselves to please use your voice for our most vulnerable students that will be disproportionately affected. It is time for parents to take the lead on the systemic changes that have plagued our students and families. I encourage all of you who are not already engaged in this work to please share the resources from organizations like PIST NYC and possibly get involved in the bigger fight for a more equitable, sustainable route to education. We know that the parents are the experts on all the challenges, and with your knowledge of experience, we can really implement solutions that impact our students and getting them to and from school safely and on time. We stand in solidarity with the parents, families, students, and the labor workforce that is responsible for caring for our children while on the bus. Through a fair contract, we can achieve a sustainable workforce that will be able to provide a quality bus ride for all of our students. We thank you again, and we are here to support, and please reach out should our office be of any assistance. Thank you.
Thank you, Lupe. I'd like to acknowledge Giselle Ramirez.
Hi, everyone. I'm Giselle Ramirez. I'm one of the co-founder of Bronx Special Needs and Protect New York City Education. Also, another things that we're doing for outreach is we are emailing the bus companies. So far, only one of them have replied, which is our New York City bus. Matt Bentley replied to us. He ensured us that he is going to the negotiation with the best, good faith. I did had an interview today with CBS News. The same thing. We are saying the same thing. We do support. The workers. We understand they also family. They're trying to feed their families. We just want this to work. We have used the resources that the mayor and the councilor had offered. This already in place, and that doesn't work without the strike. Imagine what's going to happen with the strike. So what I encourage people is to speak up. If you know anyone, if you social media, start tagging everyone that you know that can care for it, because people don't care until it bothers them. Say what you do for a living, that what's going to happen if your child doesn't get to school, you don't get to work, how this is going to affect. We know that everyone cares about the economy more than they care about people. So how this will affect the city, and how will this affect the economy of the city? If you are a essential worker, teacher, anything that you do, just raise your voice, and how will this affect the city? Also, I will be giving a call to the bus companies, either during the weekend and today, and during the week, and keep emailing them and see what they say. I will say the same thing, similar things in Spanish, because I see some of our Spanish-speaking members are asking for translation. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Giselle Ramírez. Yo soy una de las representantes de Bronx Special Kids, and they found Protect New York City Education. Nosotros estamos tratando lo mejor posible de contactar a las personas de los buses, a los dueños y los representantes de los buses. Le estamos mandando correos electrónicos y llamadas. Algunos de ellos no han respondido, diciendo que ellos están tratando lo mejor posible por las negociaciones con la unión para que no pase. Pero hasta ahora solo una de las organizaciones de transporte no han contestado. Lo que les recomiendo a todos los padres es que comiencen a decir las cosas que hacen de trabajo y cómo esto lo van a afectar, cómo le van a afectar a la ciudad y cómo le van a afectar a ustedes como personas. Si tienen, díganlo en redes sociales, en todas las redes sociales que tienen, hablen con las personas alrededor de ustedes, porque lamentablemente hasta ahora lo único que les importa es a nosotros. Y si tienen alguna pregunta, ya saben dónde, la mayoría de ustedes saben dónde encontrarnos, tienen el correo de nosotros, los números de teléfono de nosotros. Vuelvo y reitero, las únicas personas que le están importando esto ahora mismo es a nosotros. y que pasen buenas tardes y lo veremos el martes en el rally.
All right, thank you so much for that. Sarah, is that everyone thus far?
That's everyone thus far, and I was gonna give you all that message. But we do want somebody who's knowledgeable to comment about the uses of the NYCSA account where people get supposedly accurate route information, and how to get that if your school doesn't know how to get it to you. So I'll jump in. Okay. All right. This is Sarah from PIST again, and since the union delegates are either in negotiations or up at the companies where the routes are being assigned today, I will read you a message that we received from them about the status of school bus routes. Okay. It says, before a strike takes place, the members have to vote to authorize a strike. The contracts expired on June 30th, 2023. We have been negotiating with one company since May of 2022, well over a year, and the majority of the others, 10 others, since October of 2022. Yet we are miles apart. As of now, we received an overwhelming number voting yes to strike. The members' voices are loud and clear. However, we are committed to negotiating and remaining at the table until we receive a fair contract. Only one company has negotiated in good faith, and we currently have a tentative agreement. The members have not had the chance to vote to ratify this contract due to the summer break. Until now, these companies, the remaining companies, have not taken our members' needs or the needs of the public remotely seriously. The company's absence of a sense of urgency and fairness has brought us to this situation. For now, there will be no disruption of busing for the start of the school year. You have the president's word. It is business as usual next week. That's the best I can tell you for now, and I promise we will keep you informed. And that is signed Carolyn Rinaldi, the Chief of Staff, Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 1181-1061. And that was as she was going into negotiations. So it's business as usual next week. You already know, unless you're a brand new bus parent, you still have to make plan B. You have to prepare your child for being flexible. You have to fill out bus emergency contact cards, which they maybe in all this chaos won't even send out to you with your bus crew from the company. There are plenty of people here who can, you know, who have experience with these things, and we can give each other tips here and in other spaces. But it's hard. It's probably going to be, you know, somewhat more messy because they are doing last minute organization, as they didn't have this whole week to be up at the companies, you know, in the usual preparation because they were tied up in negotiations. So I'll stop there. And I think Erica, unless Heather's gonna jump in about the school account, we can go to general Q&A.
Hi, everyone. I'm gonna talk briefly because I'm actually at my desk at work. So what the Citywide Council on Special Education has been doing is really assisting folks in non-public schools with establishing a NICSA account. If you have a child that goes to school in New York City, you are eligible to get a NICSA account. It's much limited to what a public school family gets as far as like all their student information, but it does have busing information. The 853 schools have had difficulties with getting parents connected, some charter schools and private schools. But if your child has busing on their IEP, they should have access to one of those accounts, and Special Education Office and OPT has assured us that every parent should be able to establish an account and connect it to their student. So if you are not able to establish that account, whether your code doesn't work or your school is uncertain what to do, one, your school can reach out to the CCSE directly, and we can help them. And that is our inbox. I'll drop it in the chat when I'm done talking, but it's ccse@schools.nyc.gov. And I also put a survey in a couple links in the chat as well. The CCSE is doing a survey. It does ask you for your name and contact information and some information about your child. You can put as much information as you want or as little as you want. Obviously, you want to put at least your name and contact information. And we're going to send the whole list to Central Office for Special Education to assist families directly. And hopefully that will get some of the ball moving for some of these families that are having a lot of difficulty getting NICSA established and connected. So just so you know, that's there. Any information you get, of course, will be held in confidence. It will only be shared with Special Education Office, and they, of course, will share it with whoever is doing the codes there. But, you know, we're not going to publish it anywhere. And it'll only be accessible by myself and the presidents of our council, just so you know. But please reach out if you have any questions. You can always reach out to CCSE. Again, I'll put the email in the chat. And basically that's what I have. The NICSA account is important for a couple reasons. One, it has all your busing information in there. It has who you can contact if your busing is not correct. And also, whenever this GPS system they've been bragging about is rolled out to all the buses, you're going to need to be able to access NICSA in order to log into their app to track your child's bus. So it's important to get that established, and we're here to try and help as much as we can. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for that. Sarah, just confirming that's everyone, yes?
Take hands, please.
Absolutely. For Q&A, or is this someone contributing to the agenda?
Both. This is one of our members, and I would love to hear what she has to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Fatima?
Hi, my name is Fatima Prilo. I'm the mother of a 17-year-old female who is intellectually disabled. She has Down syndrome. And one of the things that is important that we've had many struggles with the bus companies. And I say the companies because it's the companies, and I think OPT that has created these issues. Every time you think you have the system down pat, it is one more obstacle or hurdle you have to go across. It's hard. They don't, the bus now has to be so many minutes late before they'll accept your complaint. Last year was exceptionally difficult for us. And I'm concerned that even though the OPT knew that this was going to happen so many months ago, even last year, they didn't do anything to push these companies to negotiate. And the bottom line is they have the money already. This money has been given to them by the federal government for our children, and they get this money in advance. And so it seems like since they get the money in advance, they don't see the need to do anything different. We, as parents, we have to push them to do something different. They have asked to be over the city, over this education of our children. So we have to make sure that we hold those people accountable. We have to make sure that OPT does what it's supposed to do because they're being paid. And if they do not do what they're supposed to do, we have to make sure that our representatives in the city council, the state, and the federal government understand that our kids who have special needs need to have the same educational rights as per the IDEA Act that all other kids have. We cannot allow our children to be used in this gambling that they do with all this funding. So all I'm doing is asking that everybody who's a parent, make sure that you reach out to your representatives because this is important. This is our children. You know, whose kids? Our kids. And they're our kids whether we birthed them or not. Thank you.
I have a question.
Just a moment. Just a
Okay,
moment.
thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we will prepare to take questions. As a reminder, we will begin with, oh, just one moment, please. Okay, thank you. So as a reminder, we will begin with parents who have questions first. And then we will take comments from our parents. We want to prioritize parents who genuinely need information for how they will proceed moving into the first few days of school. And then we will take comments from parents. And then we will take questions from the press. And again, any policymakers who want to join, who want to have a conversation about what's happening here, that needs to be a separate conversation that I am more than happy to support us in having. That being said, any parents who have questions, feel free to type in the chat. We're happy to read your questions out loud and make sure that they are addressed. Please use the hand raise function so that we can make sure that we call on you in the order that hands are raised. And as folks organize for that, there's a couple of things I want to share really quickly. There's also a significant policy concern that parents should feel empowered to connect with not just their local CEC, and I say that as a CEC president, but I also know the limitations of community education councils, but not just their district office, but their city council members and their state level elected officials. Ask them why this system is okay the way that it is, why year over year we have issues with routes, why we have issues with children having the appropriate bus matrons or support for their transportation, why there are children with hours-long commutes simply to go to school. There are countless children in many districts like mine, children who look like me, who have to leave their district and go to a completely different community to get their special needs met. Why the schools in those communities are not being empowered to be responsive and address the needs of those children. That is a policy conversation. If the government is going to say it is their responsibility to educate our children, then ask why some children have hours-long commutes to have their needs met, and some children can go to the neighborhood school and find what it is that their child needs right there. If schools are meant to educate children, then responsiveness has to be a part of that conversation. And far too many communities in our city are not actually given the support necessary to make sure that those schools can meet that need. So I want to also empower folks. Do not be afraid of your elected officials. Do not be afraid to tell them this is wrong. And it seems like the wrong is concentrated among very specific communities in very specific parts of the city. It's absolutely inequitable, and it's something we absolutely should address. And the funny thing about it, to the CEC folks in the room, it's very interesting what happens when you start reminding the Office of Special Education. It seems like there are far too many schools in my community. Children cannot find service providers, where they have to leave the district for an hours-long commute. There are parents in my district who have children in 2 separate districts because children can't get their needs met here. And when you elevate that and you start talking about, well, let me see the data for every district in the city, let's find out who's got the discrepancy and who seems to be plentiful in resources. Then all of a sudden people start scrambling because they don't want the press to have that information, because that's a whole different conversation. So please, we have to talk about this, empower people around you to talk about this, empower people to call your elected officials to the table and make them explain why this is okay and why year over year this is never addressed. So that being said, there is now a list of folks raising their hands. So I want to go ahead and acknowledge Danielle Carter. The floor is yours.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, our concern is this, I think, at this point of life, because let's just call it for what it is. The week is over with, and now we're bombarded with this, wondering what we're gonna do. So let's just say, for example, I'm a mom, but I'm also a DOE worker. So if my child got to be at work at 8 a.m., and if I'm to hit this Bruckner Boulevard and get him there at school before 8, and I'm supposed to be at my school at 8, all the way back home, we just, as the workers, just like I called other workers, we just want to know, how is this going to work out? Because if we're willing to take our kids to school, let's just say a strike happened. If we're willing to take our kids to school, use our own gas money, knowing most of these kids cannot get on a Metro card and ride, my child has to have a transportation power. So this whole thing, this is making it more of a big deal. It will be easier for me to bring him to school and to pick him up than to wonder about a Metro card and rider share. You know, parents are not confident in all that because overall we don't even understand it. And the truth is this, is that maybe the chancellor has to get involved with the administration to not dock us for time. And it shouldn't be no penalty if we bringing our child to school. They shouldn't have been done from the jump. But if we have to bring our child to school, shouldn't we have a 2-3 hour delay and without no penalty and no cost of loss of time of the day? And for administration to know this by Tuesday morning, because the staff got to come there Tuesday morning. But remember, a lot of staff members, they have children who's disabled waiting for this bus. So it's like we already paying other people. The buses are always late the first day of school, whether it's a strike or not. We're paying other people to watch our kid get on this bus because we got to get to our school before 8. God forbid if we don't get there before 8, then it's a problem. But since it's going to be a strike, probably, most likely, what's going to happen? What's going to happen for the staff workers that work for the DOE, or even workers in the area who has to go back downtown on the train and go to their everyday job? We shouldn't be penalized for money and time if we're willing to take our child to school. We need the chancellor on this, you know, and the mayor. How are we going to be compensated? Because when I come back to the job after 9, I shouldn't have to hear anything. All because I brought my child to school, DOE ground, back to a DOE ground. It shouldn't be no penalty.
Thank you for that. I do want to say to the educators in the room, speak to your union rep, speak to your union reps, speak to your district leaders so that this is something that they are able to frontline in terms of making sure that they organize with your administrators to make sure that they know that they have to be prepared for what could be an attendance issue, because if they've got children in classrooms with no educators, and then they need to be able to prepare to maybe streamline those students into the auditorium or something like that. So make sure that you encourage any other parents that are in your building to communicate collectively with your chapter leader and then with your district leader to make sure that there is some sort of support organized for them. Sarah?
Thank you. That is a really, really important point that both of you are making. And it's something we've been trying to say. There's a ripple effect. You know, the school bus riders are like a footnote. It's only 15%, but still there is this whole other effect. And I'm glad the question of the unions that represent school workers, be it UFT, DC37 and others, came up because they also have a strong platform. And I was actually supposed to mention that a week from tomorrow is the Labor Parade. It's not Labor Day Parade, because that Labor Day you got to go on the Parkway and the Caribbean Festival, and those unions will be there too. And you can, whine over there and let them know, what are you doing about the possibility of a school bus strike, or what are you doing in general to make sure that a fair contract happens and we don't have to have this fear cloud over our head that there might be this disastrous, unnecessary, preventable situation. Boston School Bus Drivers Union recently won a 36% raise. And guess what? They got no vacancies, because people heard that you were going to make a living wage, and they threw in their applications to work, driving, transporting beautiful children to school, hopefully on time and safely and professionally. So September 9th, I got off track, Fifth Avenue, the local 1181 always invites us. This year position will be 44th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue. And of course, this is on our website. We can put the quick link in the chat, which will have a map added on. If you can get there before 10 a.m. next Saturday, September 9th, that's great, because it steps off at 10:15. And what an impression it will make of all the things people here are saying, that you have parents side by side, not like this, we have the potential to have unity to get what they need and what we need. And that's something that we can do. And plus it's fun, it's a beautiful day. So since you have a bus ride to some extent on the 7th and 8th, perhaps you will have some energy to come back through on September 9th. That's it.
Thank you. Giselle?
Okay, so if the parents would like me to do is to draft a couple of emails for the representative. I do have some emails from District 14, the congressperson from District 14 and District 15, which is Ocasio-Cortez and Jeffrey Torres. I do also have some others. I just have to look for it. Just let me know. We can, draft a couple of emails and you start sending to them, or reach out to them with the phone numbers. I do have the phone numbers also. Because again, we are the only ones who care at this point. Also, I'm just going to say it in Spanish. Si alguna de las personas quisiera que podría escribir un correo electrónico para que se lo manden a los representantes congresionales del distrito de ustedes. Simplemente déjenme saber. tengo algunas informaciones sobre los representantes congresionales del distrito 14 y 15. Simplemente tengo que buscar la información. Puedo dársela ya sea para este fin de semana. Simplemente déjenme saber, porque hasta este punto los únicos que nos importan es a nosotros.
All right, thank you, Giselle. Are there any other questions? Are there any other comments from our attendees? Francine?
Yes, I'm a student.
Hi, good morning. I came in quite late, so I don't know, maybe this was addressed already. But I just want to say, you know, I'm really thinking about your comment about when the DOE becomes aware of the students who are not making it to school. And we know that, you know, this is something that predominantly affects students in special education. It especially affects students in District 75. And it's very well known that District 75 students don't make it to school. And I'm just, as we've been going through this, I've been thinking, you know, if this wasn't a service that affected students going to gifted programs and specialized schools predominantly, they would fix it, right? We wouldn't even be having this town hall. And we have services that can help students. So like there's a travel training service for students with disabilities. It took the DOE 2 full years after the pandemic to bring that service back. And so I guess while we're in this crisis mode and while we're fighting this particular battle, we should also be pressuring the DOE to be stepping up on the programs and the supports and the services that will give our students the independence to not have to rely on a bus system. Because we've been having this conversation, even with the greatest contract, although I do hear what Sarah's saying, like if it was a living wage and there were less vacancies, but there's also this issue of the accountability of the busing program with OPT. And with the best contract, our students in District 75 suffer, our students who have to travel to non-public schools suffer, our students have to travel far distances suffer. And so while we're fighting this battle, we should also be fighting these other battles to bring these other programs into a more full and widespread existence, so that we don't always have to rely on this, because this happens even when there's not a strike. For the Citywide Council on Special Ed, this is probably the #1 issue that we fight. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm sorry if it was nonsensical. I haven't had my coffee yet.
You're good, Francine. Thank you. There was someone who actually had raised their hand. Trustee Ackman?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, a question, but it's not a question. I'm saying I am transferring to the public righteous apartment, and it's going to be hard because I know both my kids. I have 2 kids in that they're autistic, and one goes to P33, 233, and the other one goes to P266, and no, 224. Excuse me, wrong with that. And it's going to be hard because I'm moving, and they are so far. I have to take like 3 buses for previous action, and my other son, he go to Metropolitan, and that's going to be a problem. And I don't want to get it, just like whoever said ATS case, because my kids from this school, because buses that's going to strike, and I don't know what. I'm gonna try to get my to get them. But if we don't have transportation, take them to school. Because I seen a site that was saying it will have transportation for the kids that they would have an Uber and some other transportation for the students.
Tracy?
What can I do?
Tracy? Can you hear?
Yes,
Tracy, can you hear me? So there's a lot of static and background noise that makes it hard to interpret what you're saying. So I'll ask, if you have a specific question, can you type it in the chat so that we can make sure that we say it out loud for you and make sure that you get an answer?
Yes, because I'm on the bus right now, so that's why it's really hard. So I'm gonna type it in.
We will make sure that you get an answer said out loud so that you can hear. Yeah, okay. Type it in and we'll make sure that you get a response. Okay, Fatima.
Hello. I just wanted to make note that our children who are District 75 who are intellectually disabled or have other disabilities that do not allow for them to, even with travel training, they still wouldn't be eligible because they cannot take the New York City public school system, New York City public transportation system to school. So that becomes not an option for them, especially if they're using Assessor Ride, which requires 24-hour notice for them to get a ride the next day. And we know that Assessor Ride is notoriously late for picking up their passengers. The other thing is I wanted to mention, in addition to all the other politicians, we got to also make sure that we reach out to Peter Buttigieg. Peter Buttigieg is a Department of Transportation, and the IDEA Act, Special Education, people with disabilities falls underneath his office as well. So we must also reach out to him. And people may say, oh, she's sounding an alarm. That's not needed, but the alarm should have been sounded a long time ago. I can say for a fact, last year, my daughter missed 2 weeks of school. Why? Because the bus driver didn't just show up. Then after that, for a month and a half, they were the second pickup, meaning the driver went through a whole route before he picked up my daughter for District 75. So the District 75 students were picked up last. She didn't get to school for almost 6 weeks, 2 hours late. We complained and we complained. It wasn't until we made a big to-do at one of these major meetings that the chancellor was at or his representatives were at that we got a solution. It wasn't until PIST reached out to them and just blew it up and said, look, this is ridiculous. Sarah reached out for me. I agreed. That then all of a sudden they found a way to find a driver. But can you imagine you're late every single day and nobody seemed to care that they were missing related services in their classroom? Nobody seemed to care. I mean, they knew that. The school was complaining every single day. A bunch of us were complaining every single day because the whole bus route was late every single day. So we have to start holding all these representatives from the chancellor on up, that this is something that's important to us. Again, these are our kids. We cannot stand by and let anything that we must have, make sure they're educated, because that's the school to prison pipeline if we do not educate our kids the right way and get them to school. You can't be educated if you're still waiting for the school bus. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. Jennifer?
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Che. I am a parent of 2 students with disabilities. One just graduated. And my kids don't take the bus anymore, but I'm here today because I've been listening and I thought maybe I could ask a question or a suggestion. I'm not sure. Maybe the question would be, has anyone in New York City as a community, as a group, filed an OCR complaint, Office of Civil Rights complaint, with the United States Department of Education to say that our children's civil rights as students with disabilities have been violated because this problem, I actually uploaded an old picture from 2011 when my kid was, that wasn't the first year or the only year, but when we were in the news because, the Daily News saved us. But it's crazy because, how do we complain if we don't have access to education? We have the due process complaints, we have OCR complaints, we have state complaints, but if we did a due process complaint, it's like a one-on-one situation. But if we could maybe do an OCR complaint as a community, maybe that would help because, how, as a community advocate as well, I also do private advocacy, but as a community advocate, I find that year after year, whenever we have a big problem, like we're having a big problem with special education services during the pandemic, or it's always out, shown by the bus. The bus is our problem year after year. At the beginning of the school year, when we want to talk about our latest big special education, this is a bad thing this year. It's actually the same story every September. It's the bus. So we can't ever get anything like fixed because what is more important than getting into school? We can't even complain about how we didn't get this service or that service because we didn't even get inside the school yet. So I'm sorry to get so passionate. I didn't mean to, but either way, I just wanted to throw it out there for the leaders of our community when it comes to bus, that maybe this could be a way. There is an advocate in the community. Her name is Miriam Numberg. She used to be an OCR lawyer, right? So she's an attorney and she used to work for the Office of Civil Rights. And, some of her clients have, done civil rights complaints about issues that is clearly affecting students with disabilities. And so maybe, maybe we could set up to try to see if we could, get her to do something like that, because she would probably be really qualified. But that's just an idea. So I took a lot of time. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Jennifer. Heather?
Hi. I just have two things I wanted to bring up. One, I just want to ask families on here when school starts, just with the regular busing nightmares, and also if strike happens, to please be very patient with the busing coordinators at your schools, because they will bear a huge load of the work that has to be done to resolve problems, because OPT just directs everybody back to their schools, and your busing coordinator, more often than not, that's not their only job. They're usually a parent coordinator, or they're an aide, a school aide, or a secretary. So they have they wear 1,000 hats. And we've had challenges with the DOE recognizing that, especially at the beginning of the school year, that busing coordinators is a full-time job, and they don't want to staff it as a full-time job. So just please be patient and reach out. Once again, I always say the CCSE is here to help. So please reach out to us, and we'll try to assist as well in escalating stuff. The other thing is more of a question, and then also again to offer the CCSE as a support, is I know, and I would bet money on it, that some family is going to have ACS called on them if there's a bus strike and they choose not to, or they can't get their kid to school because of whatever is going on in their family. So I really want to know what families should do if that is happening to them, and what is the best way to address that with the school, with DOE, with advocates, because that to me is very concerning, because having ACS come into your home is extremely disruptive, and it leaves lasting impacts that can, even employment down the road. It's not like it makes me so angry. I don't even want to talk about it more, but I really, really have a lot of concerns about that, and want to know if there's somebody who knows better than I do, what a parent should do if that happens.
Thank you so much. Heather, I will talk to you offline about that. Susanna.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to comment quickly regarding when children miss school because the bus doesn't get to pick them up to take them to school, or if the bus shows up an hour late, an hour and a half. So basically, I know that parents can, definitely need to document. That's really important. That's the step number one. Document every single day the time that the child is picked up in the morning, is dropped off at school, and then that they come back home, and the time, the child gets home, because also many children get services after school. And they can honestly file a complaint. Like, let's say that a child miss every single day speech therapy in the morning, let's say 8:30 to 9 o'clock, you know, they can file a complaint. And of course, it's going to take some time because everything takes time, especially within the Department of Education. But the child will be able to make up those sessions, you know, with a private therapist, not necessarily in school, because, you know, the school day is like already full of, like, you know, at 1 we do this, at 2 we do that. But basically, if a child misses the school because the school bus is not showing up for whatever reason, there's a strike, you know, there's too many kids on the bus, you know, the parent, the child is entitled to compensatory services. And there's a process, and yeah, it takes time, and also you may need to find a lawyer, but those things are doable. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure on that, that if you have low income, you can get a lawyer that can provide services, you know, without asking you for money. So basically keep that in mind. And briefly, another point, assessor right is great. However, I don't think it's the right service to take a child to school. That's why a child has mandated busing services. And it's really, really important to note that busing services are related services, meaning that the child is entitled to it and the child should get those services. That doesn't happen, then again, we go back to the, you know, like compensatory services or filing a complaint because your child is missing the services that he or she are entitled to. That's all I have. Thank you so much for listening.
Susanna, I was asked if you could repeat that in Spanish.
Oh, okay, sure. Sí, buenas tardes en español para los padres que hablan español. Básicamente yo le estaba diciendo que si, por ejemplo, un niño o una niña pierde sus clases, sus terapias en la mañana porque el autobús viene a recogerlo tarde o quizás no viene a recogerlo, por ejemplo, ahora estamos, quizás puede ser que haya una huelga. El padre tiene el derecho de exigir al Departamento de Educación que le hagan sus derechos con respecto a esas terapias o esas clases que el niño perdió por culpa de no tener un autobús. Obviamente es un recurso, tiene que pedir una audiencia imparcial, tiene que, a veces necesita depender de un abogado para que el abogado le explique, porque estos son cosas que los padres generalmente no sabemos, algunos sí, pero muchos no. Entonces es muy importante que los padres entiendan que sí, que pueden reclamar que su niño o su niña perdió el servicio porque no tuvo un autobús que vino a buscarlo a una hora que estaba supuesto para que el niño llegara a la escuela a su hora para él recibir sus servicios, él o ella. So, básicamente es importante que los padres sepan que si su niño o su niña perdió su servicio de terapia del habla o terapia ocupacional, inclusive de clases de matemática o de lectura comprensiva, el padre tiene el recurso de trabajar con un abogado para algo que se llama como educación compensatoria. Es un proceso, no pasa de la noche a la mañana, pero es algo que sí se puede. El otro punto que yo que mencioné es que sí, hacerse RAI o servicios de vehículos con servicio que lo llevan a diferentes lugares que el padre necesite ir con su niño. Sí son servicios que están ahí, pero realmente el servicio que puede llevar a su niño a la escuela todos los días, que el padre no tiene que llevarlo él mismo, es el servicio del autobús escolar, y que es un servicio mandado por el departamento, por la ley. La ley es un contrato que tenemos para que nuestros niños reciban esos servicios, y es muy importante que ok, hacerse right está ahí, pero no es el servicio, no es el derecho de hacerse right. Usted no le puede decir hacerse right, o usted no vino a buscar a mi hijo y mi hijo no fue a la escuela, entonces ahora yo le voy a hacer una demanda. Usted no puede hacer eso, pero usted sí puede hacer eso con el servicio del Departamento de Educación. Entonces, obviamente es un servicio que está ahí, pero no es el servicio. Por ejemplo, en hacerse right usted no puede mandar a su niño solo, usted tiene que ir con su niño. El servicio de autobús, usted no va con su niño, el niño se va en su autobús con la voz attendant o la señora que le atiende el niño en el autobús. En otras palabras, tenemos que realmente hacer nuestros derechos valer, y eso sería por medio de la IP, y también pidiéndole a las autoridades que, o mejor dicho, demandándole que tienen que ofrecerle los servicios que nuestros niños están, que legalmente les pertenecen. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Lori.
Hi, everybody. This has been amazing. I just want to quickly say that because transportation is a related service, if it's not provided, people can file for an impartial hearing following due process procedures, because their child will be denied the least restrictive environment and FAPE, LRE and FAPE as a result. And if someone files a complaint with the state, that triggers them looking at the school district and the patterns within it. So it looks at it systemically. If people were to get involved in a lawsuit with OCR, that is the federal government looking at the state education department and how it oversees, the school district implementing this. And then, I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but the city is on more or less a corrective action plan from the state education department the last 3 years as a result of students not reaching benchmarks set forth in IDA, which is the federal special education law. Within it, there are about 4 or 5 areas of need in which busing is not included. As a result, I think there needs to be pressure put on the state to look at this. And I think that's actually, in my opinion, as a professional who leads the policy work and as a parent of a 20-year-old in a D75 program, that is where the pressure should be put on. Because, I mean, even something as basic as the regulations for OPT not being updated over 30 years. If anybody was to look at the language in there, you could see how problematic it is with the existing organizational structure of the DOE. I also encourage people to talk to the media and humanize this as much as possible with the lens of the civil rights aspect of this, because, we, in my opinion, don't focus enough on people with disabilities being a minority and a protected class, and our kids with IEPs rights being denied, in the same way that we look at other minority groups, racially, ethnically, nationality. And I'm not by any means, please, minimizing that, because it's never cool to compare one group's oppression to the other. However, when we talk about the intersection and or when we talk about, segregation, we are not looking at enough, in my opinion, at kids with disabilities being the primary area of need for change. So I will stop. I can go on forever about this. If anybody wants to talk or get involved or needs help just talking through advocacy efforts systemically or individually, please reach out to me or include NYC. Thank you.
Thank you so much for elevating that, Lori. And because we talk about intersections, we talk about the fact that no person is just one thing. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of the children who are receiving related services, a lot of the children who are experiencing, and I say this as a CEC president who literally just received this data from the DOE or New York City Public Schools, literally yesterday, a lot of the children who are having difficulty receiving services in the nearest vicinity, like the school that is nearest to their home, those are children of color. If I were to take a poll of what district the attendees in this Zoom right now live in, I bet I could guess where they're not from. There's a reason for that. And I've said this to the chancellor during our chancellor's town hall, when what you're doing is putting all of the resources that children need in very specific communities, and you are busing Black children from one side of a borough to the other to receive those services. What you are doing is defunding Black schools, and you're putting the money and resources that those children need in white communities. I'm just going to go ahead and say that because that is what we see in the data itself, which is why they make it so difficult for you to access that and why you have to ask for it and you have to hound them for it. So This is the reality of this. This is a civil rights matter. You are talking about a protected class, and intersectionality means you are often talking about Black and brown children, which is why you often find people don't care about who it is that is being disenfranchised by the way this system operates. But I too will stop. So that being said, as I'm looking at the list of folks who have their hands raised, at this time, I want to prioritize anybody who has not raised their hand before and spoken. As I look at the list now, I see folks who have already, and I just want to make sure that we give folks who have not raised their hand yet the opportunity to share. You don't have to lower your hands. I just want to make sure that as I'm scanning the list that I'm not missing someone. All right, that being said, Maggie.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to speak in Spanish now, just echoing a lot of the information that was said and a lot of my own information. Buenas tardes a toda la comunidad que está presente aquí. Voy a tratar de recalcar los puntos que se han tocado. Primeramente, una disculpa por no poder tener traducción simultánea en esta junta, pero sepan que nosotros estamos trabajando muy duro como padres voluntarias, como comunidad, para traer este tipo de información a ustedes en español, en interpretación de lenguaje. Disculpen. Los puntos que se han tocado mayormente han sido: hay que tener unión con los trabajadores, porque los trabajadores también son maestros, también son asistentes. Los trabajadores de autobuses también tienen el derecho de un salario para poder sobrevivir y solventar sus gastos del día a día. De las comunicaciones que ha habido en la prensa y de las comunicaciones que ha habido del Departamento de Educación, mayormente han tratado de poner las familias contra los trabajadores de transportación escolar. No podemos permitir esto. Tenemos que tener solidaridad con los trabajadores que ahorita están pidiendo un salario equitativo, que están pidiendo beneficios y los beneficios que estaban anteriormente, los cuales ya no están. Estos son razones básicas por las que ahora estamos en esta situación de que una posibilidad de una huelga de autobuses escolares. Porque simple y sencillamente la ciudad, el canciller, el alcalde y mayormente el Departamento de Educación no han hecho factibles que las compañías de autobuses privadas escolares le paguen justamente a sus trabajadores y les provean los servicios que ellos necesitan, los beneficios mínimos que ellos necesitan. Como le digo, estos son trabajadores que están con nuestros niños de lunes a viernes. Estos son trabajadores que también son padres, son trabajadores que también son educadores, que también tienen muchos de ellos tienen estudiantes en las escuelas que tienen discapacidades también. Entonces, les hago el pedido les hacemos hoy el pedido de que por favor se unan a esta causa y se unan con estos trabajadores. Otro punto que se ha tocado son los problemas preexistentes, constantes, prevalentes, que han continuado con los autobuses escolares. Problemas como que los autobuses, que no hay suficientes conductores, que no se está respetando lo que se ha incluido en el IEP de los estudiantes. Pero aparte de si es que va a haber una huelga o no va a haber una huelga, estos problemas continúan y tenemos que seguir peleando y poner presión a los legisladores, poner presión al alcalde, poner presión al Departamento de Educación y al canciller que resuelvan estos problemas. La única manera que nosotros vamos a poder hacer eso es con la unión, unirnos con los trabajadores y hacer, ya sea por peticiones, aquí estamos incluyendo los enlaces y la información y recursos que PIST está proveyendo, y hay líneas en español, hay secciones en español también. La petición también próximamente estará en español para aquellos que necesiten, sepan exactamente lo que se está incluyendo y lo que se está exigiendo al Departamento de Educación y al alcalde y al canciller. Muchísimas gracias. Por favor, aquí tenemos muchas personas bilingües. Otra vez, disculpen de que no podemos tener una traducción simultánea en español, pero aquí en el chat ustedes nos pueden hacer preguntas y nosotros le podemos traducir. Si no tienen acceso al chat, por favor, quiten la opción de silencio, de mute, para que ustedes háganse escuchar y nosotros trataremos de traducirle. Somos una unión, somos una comunidad, no están solos, aquí estamos. Otra vez es Maggie Sánchez de Proteger la Educación Especial de la Ciudad de Nueva York. Gracias.
Thank you. Beth?
Thanks, everybody. I came in a little bit late. I just want to first say thank you to all the advocates who are here and press who is here, because the only way we're going to get any movement on the needle is if we do this together. So I want to first say I wholeheartedly agree with everything everyone has said thus far and don't want to repeat anything. And I really empathize with all the parents here. One thing I want to point out is what's been effective for me when I have testified in front of city council or a PEP or spoken directly to anybody at the DOE, it seems pretty clear that they don't give a crap about our kids, right? And the only thing to me that they do seem to care about is money and bad press and lawsuits. Those are the things that they seem to respond to. So one of the ways that's been effective for me is to quantify the cost, not just to me, but to the DOE for their failures to transport our kids to school, properly give them their services, in all the ways that they fail our kids. Point out how they are burning money and letting it fly out the window. So for example, when I was forced to use the rideshare a couple of years ago, which was awful for all the reasons that everyone's already talked about, I was able to quantify them because I got stranded one day and there wasn't an Uber scheduled for me. I was able to quantify based on how much I spent on that one leg of a trip, which was a $60 trip from Queens back to Brooklyn. I was able to extrapolate that, multiply that 4 times a day times 188 school days or 180 school days. It was $42,300. And you could hear a pin drop in the room when I said that. I said, is that a para salary? Is that a bus driver salary? That's probably a dispatcher salary, isn't it, guys? And like, for them to make the connection between how their failures cost money is very impactful. So not everyone's able to do that, but to the extent that you can say, you're wasting your own money by not getting our kids to school. You can't get an accurate return on investment in their services that you have agreed to pay for if you can't get our kids to school. In my opinion, is a very powerful message.
And so is a unified social media campaign where everybody uses the same hashtags and gets everything trending. And we can say the same thing over and over again, but in a vacuum, it doesn't do any good. So those are the things that I'm going to try and focus on, quantifying how their failures, you know, how that costs the DOE and what it costs me. There are tons of us who can't pursue our livelihoods to the extent that we should be entitled to, because I work freelance, other people have hourly jobs. We've already heard that people's jobs are at risk because they can't get their kids to school and they're forced to drive them or take them on public transit. We all know the issues. Quantify it. Say, this is my salary. This is how much money I'm losing by not being able to go to work because I have to get my kid to school. So to the extent that you can remind them that this costs money, I think that's an effective tool as well. And so is all of the legislative stuff that everyone is doing behind the scenes. That's not my forte. So I really appreciate all of that and all the other advocacy that everyone else is doing. So thanks everyone.
Thank you. Cynthia?
Hello?
Yes, I'm waiting on Cynthia to respond. She may not be there. Lori?
Yeah, hi. So I forgot to mention before, it feels like this year, it may be even more important than other years to get in touch with your child's teacher as soon as possible to find out what their related service schedule is. So if, you know, your child is late to school, you will know if they will miss related services and ask for them to be made up. I do think people should do that as soon as possible if needed, as opposed to first going the legal route and seeking compensatory services, because that process takes so long. And I think if collectively this happens and we each can document that to show what the impact of this is and bridge it to student outcomes, I think we will have a very compelling narrative for external consumption like the press, and also for legal reasons if class action suits are filed. Think about what it looked like during the pandemic and how it was very cumbersome, that process and the criteria that the city used. In fact, Advocates for Children, you know, is still legally pursuing going after the DOE despite a recent decision by the lower courts of the state that they are appealing. I think keep records to the greatest extent possible. Introduce yourself to your kid's therapist right away so you have access to them. I think the documentation of this has never been more important. I can go on, but if anybody has questions, please feel free to reach out to include. Thank you.
Thank you. Wally? Wally Williams? My apologies if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. All right, I will go back to Cynthia. Cynthia, are you there? Okay, Sarah?
Okay, hi, okay. I wanted to say a couple of details with regard to the importance of language justice and racial justice in this context. On Tuesday's rally, we do have 1 or 2 volunteers to do some simultaneous Spanish translation, and we are in contact with family who want to make a comment in both English and Haitian Creole. People inviting any press contact from any spoken language, please come to that and invite them. The next part is that in addition to thanking the women here who are doing a sign language, and to the host and the committee who made sure to prioritize them being visible, because accessibility is not just a theory, we have to practice it. We also want to shout out our supporter, Lisette Colon, who on her birthday did a fundraiser for parents to improve school transportation, and we made just enough to pay the 2 hours of 2 people with these wonderful skills that we can now save this video and get it to the communities in the schools where hearing impaired and deaf children and parents and staff are present, among other places. We are getting a lot of collaboration and support and interest from the broad disability rights movement in this city. And I want to thank everyone in the chat who said that students in temporary housing also have civil rights. We know this. We have put together with help from some school staff and advocates for children staff, what are your rights to a Metro card or a bus if you are unhoused for any reason? And that's one of the links in the chat and on the website, and that is available in English and Spanish because we had to take it to events for the newcomers. And that was the other language we were able to get at that point. But anybody who has that skill, it's really, really helpful to take any one of these website posts and do what you can, you know, and send it back. Do not be shy. Parent coordinators send home these pieces of information that we have. PTAs. And there's another thing we spoke about, which are resolutions that some of you who are in unions, who are in community education councils or community boards or other bodies can at the very least make a resolution, invite people who ride the bus and people who work on the bus to inform you what's really happening in general and in this particular conflict labor crisis. I wanted to make a little connection because the writers, you know, the Hollywood writers that have been on strike, they're saying, you know, decades ago, it didn't look so diverse. And now that you have Black and Brown and LGBTQIA people producing this creative content, all of a sudden people are getting 3 cents residuals and stuff like that. And it's not a big stretch to notice a similar trend with the workforce of these yellow buses here, It's a majority women. It's about 40% Haitian. It's a lot of Black and brown hardworking people that now that now that this workforce reflects the students of New York and the population of New York, all of a sudden the work is not valued. And at the same time, what Erica was saying, the kids who need to make the longest trips are also Black and brown students. And that's been documented, and we have shared that data the last time we did a town hall like this and ongoing. So I'm sorry, that's a lot. But those issues are forefront in our mind. We want equity. Oh, and I forgot to tell you guys, you have to practice singing for the labor parade. It's just 6 words. Safety for children, justice for workers. So come on out on Tuesday if you can. Bring your family. Come on out on Saturday if you can. Keep in touch. And I'm gonna stop. I hope there's a couple more. Fatima should talk maybe, and then we can maybe.
Hello, this is Cynthia.
There you go. Go right ahead.
I was having problems with my phone. I'm not computer savvy. Okay, you was talking about, I was just listening at you just now. You was talking about how our Black and brown children have to travel further, which I agree, because my daughter's having that problem with her son. And you said there's data to prove that. I just wanted to know, where can I find that data? Because when I speak, I want to have documents to prove it. I want to show documents. See, that's how I am. If I'm going to say something, I'm going to say, this shows that X, Y, and Z, our children, where can I find that data at? That information.
So,
could you send it to me at my email and I can print it up?
You would need to, whatever school district your child's school is in, you would want to reach out to the Community Education Council there, and they would be able to pursue that information for you. We receive data I want to say every year, every fall, we receive data that outlines the enrollment patterns in our district. And hold on just one second. We receive data that outlines the enrollment patterns in our district, and it shows us which children have to leave the district in order to receive their education, which generally includes students with special needs. It will show you which students are enrolled in non-public universities, non-public schools, and students who are enrolled in district schools in other school districts, which generally implies, like, sure, there are some students that just their families want them enrolled in that district. Maybe it's more convenient, but also signals that you're looking at children who require special education related services that go elsewhere to receive them. So you would want to reach out to that council. It's usually like if you live in District 7, it would be CEC7@schools.nyc.gov, or whatever district, like I am CEC17. So you would reach out to me at CEC17@schools.nyc.gov, and you would let them know what your questions are, and you would be able to address that there.
Okay, that's a community education council, right?
Yes.
Okay, definitely.
All right, thank you. There are a couple of people who have typed in the chat that they have their hands raised. And as I said, I'm trying to prioritize folks who have not raised their hands yet. So I'm just looking around to see who else is left. I'm looking at the time, it's 1:48 p.m. So I also want to be mindful of time. So if folks can use the chat, I would encourage you to do so. I see that there is Wally Williams. Are you able to unmute? All right, Fatima.
Hi, I just wanted to mention for the people that said they were parents in schools, I put the link to OP201. OP201, if you have a transportation delay, and that includes a strike, you take your pictures, show that you had to take your child to school or whatever the issue is, and put that form in. You keep putting those forms in for every time. And then if they're denying you, then you file your grievance. Okay, I was a teacher, and I know this because I filed plenty of grievances about the fact that I was late because of the last strike, or the bus didn't show up, and I took pictures and I brought receipts and I went all the way with it. So that's OP 201. All people in New York City Department of Ed, I know that for a fact. That form works, and I gave you the link. Also, if we can all find a way to reach out to Gail Brewer. Gail Brewer is an advocate for all kids with special needs, whether they're in District 75 or not. And I think she could be our voice in the community, city council, to be able to speak loud and clear about the fact that busing is an important related services for all our children. So those are the two things I just wanted to mention. The link is in the chat. If it's not, you can just Google OP201, NYC DOE OP201, and you'll see the link to it. A lot of times the schools do not have that paperwork. So that's why I put the link.
Thank you, Francine.
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to just say that for anybody who's interested in the kind of data that you all are talking about, that you brought up, Erica, and the last person asked about CCSE and CCD75, we are bringing back the enrollment committee that we had last year, which is a group that actually looks at this data across the city for both inside District 75 and not, where the programs are, where students live versus where they go, all of this stuff. So we're just waiting for our councils to be up and running with quorum. So keep an eye out for that. You are welcome to come to those meetings. You don't have to commit to coming all the time, but in addition to the CEC, I just wanted to put that out there that we've been doing that work since last year, and we're going to start doing it again. So I will put the CCSE email address in the chat, and if anybody's interested in just being part of that in any way, let me know, so then you can also have access to the information. We've done a lot of work breaking that down. Paulette Healy actually has done a lot of work breaking that down across the system.
Excuse me, this is Cynthia. I was the one that wanted to know about the data. Could you take my email and send me and let me know when this is going to open so I can attend the meetings? I would really, really like to go.
Yeah, I also just put the CCSE email address in the box. And so the best way would be, you can, I'll put my email also, just because I'm on my phone. And so the best way would be to reach out to me and or the CCSE, and we'll collect your names. Does that work for people?
Okay, what is your name?
Francine Almash.
I typed the email address to reach out to Francine at the Citywide Council for Special Education.
Okay, let me go back into the get it. Let me see. I have problems with my phone.
I'll make sure. I see Cynthia and Fatima both said something. I'll make a note to track down your emails from Erica.
Yeah, you got it. There you go. Just email me, please, please, please. Email me.
All right.
I have a problem with this phone, so I really would like to sit on our meetings, Francine.
Yeah, no problem.
How you spell your last name, Francine?
ALMASH. Sorry, Erica.
All right. That's all right. We do what we got to do. All right. Michelle, and I think that we will make Michelle our last speaker before we move on.
Hello, good evening. Thank you, everybody, for having this forum, this town hall. Thank you. My name is Michelle. I'm a parent to a special needs child, and also he has a rare neurological condition with seizures. I just want to say, because it was brought up before about the DOE using ACS against our children. I'm speaking about it because I've been one of those parents, and I just advise parents to please, because if we're not able to get our children to school, they are going to put it as an absence. To email their child's teacher, if they don't have the email, to get that, email their child's principals, because that's documentation. There's many. I am in solidarity with the bus drivers, with the bus companies, because it's not fair that this day and age, some of them are making less than they could get paid in a fast food chain restaurant or in a ride share restaurants. I am in solidarity with them, and I understand that. And yeah, I just want to bring that to the parents. Unfortunately, the DOE will put this as an absence towards your child, even though there is if the child can get to school or doesn't have his parent on time or something, there is codes, but they still put it on Then so please, parents, and that's the way you keep your documents if you need to take further legal advice with that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We will move on, acknowledging that we do have members of the press that are joining us. If any of you have any questions that you would like to ask in this space, please feel free to use your hand raise feature. Those of us who are helping to facilitate this conversation, if you want to paste your contact information in the chat so that they can reach out to you offline if needed, I would highly encourage you to do so. So we'll just hold for a moment or two so that folks can organize themselves as they do that. If that is necessary. Again, to those of us who are facilitating this conversation, our special education advocates, our transportation advocates, please paste your contact information in the chat so they can be, held on to as needed. Looking at the time, it's 1:55. A special thank you to our interpreters. You all are incredible. Big heart. I know that's probably not appropriate, but yes, thank you. So I want to elevate what is in the chat. Maggie has shared her contact information. I do want to say with the concern about ACS, I think it's really important, number one, that parents reach out to their teachers. Number two, reach out to your principal and parent coordinator. Those folks are going to be very, very important in being able to help you navigate what could potentially be created to support you, because just like you may have difficulty getting your child to school on time, I absolutely predict there being faculty and staff in schools having the same issue. So while we would like to hope that schools are going to operate with an abundance of grace, everybody does not lead that way, unfortunately. So be in constant contact with your child's teachers, their morning teachers, their principals, and parent coordinators, so that everybody can work together to make sure that not only that if there are accommodations that can be made, that they are made, but also so that you have a paper trail in the event that ACS is alerted and engaged.
Hi, this is Wally Williams.
I think just one second. I think that
Oh, I'm sorry.
the thing that we can also do is connect with our CECs, connect with our city council members, because city council controls the budget around education, but they do not actually have engagement in operations. The mayoral control means that nobody does except the mayor, but city council can hold the mayor accountable. And they also have the ability to advocate for you in terms of how your principal handles this and how your superintendent encourages principals to handle this. So I just wanted to make sure that I elevated that. Wally, floor is yours. You'll be our last one.
Hello?
Yes, go for it.
Hey, how are you? My name is Wally Williams. I am the father of Faja Tia Williams, who just lost her life on the school bus. I don't know how much different these the routes stand from New Jersey and New York, but although that school buses being late and kids not getting to school, I think everyone needs to focus and pay attention to the safety hazards of the school bus drivers and the school bus aides, of them being prepared and certified and ready for any situation, especially dealing with special needs children. That's very, very important. So for everyone who has children on the school bus with special needs or without special needs, we all need to be aware and raise the awareness of how important it is for these bus aides, these bus drivers, and everyone, the Board of Education, and everyone else that's involved and have say so in implementing these people being trained on how, and what to do when it's a situation of distress. This is very important. Also, everyone needs to pay attention and get to know the bus aides, or if I don't know if there's any bus aides or bus drivers on this in this conversation. This goes out for everyone. Like this is important. Like, you know, like I said, my daughter lost her life on the school bus just recently because of the negligence of a bus aide. So I just wanted to bring that up and bring that to everyone's attention. And you know, I just wanted to see if I could be informative in this conversation. If you know, but that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much for sharing. And my deep, deep condolences. I don't know what to say. Thank you so much for joining us in this space and for sharing with us. So at this time, I do think that we can draw this conversation to a close. I want to thank everyone for joining us, and thank everyone for the advocacy, the information, the sharing. I will do my best to get this recording out to everyone who registered, and I will share it with PIST, and they can do what will be necessary to share with among their social media channels. We want to continue this conversation so that folks can stay updated as to what's happening as the situation progresses. I encourage everyone to follow PIST on Twitter or X or whatever that crazy billionaire dude is calling it now, PIST NYC. You can find me on whatever that app is at Erica from 17. It's literally just Erica from 17, ERIKAFROM 17. And we will do what we can to keep folks as informed as possible. Many thank yous to the parents who joined this space. Many thank yous to our advocates who were so helpful. Many thank yous to folks who shared their stories and experiences and red flags that we need to all be mindful of. Thank you to our interpreters. Again, you all are incredible. Thank you to the folks who are translating in Spanish in the chats. And again, thank you to the folks in the press who have joined us. We hope that you have learned a little bit about what we go through here and are able to elevate some of our concerns in a way that helps us get support and results. And if we can support you in information or stories of folks who are going through this, please reach out to us. My name is Erica Kendall. Again, I'm the president of the Community Education Council for District 17, which encompasses the bulk of Central Brooklyn, except for Bed-Stuy. And I thank you for your time. Thank you for spending 2 hours with us. And we hope that everything solves and resolves itself before the first day of school. But if not, we will still be advocating together in this space. Thank you again for joining us. Have a wonderful day. And happy Labor Day. See you on the Parkway.